guys, today we have STEM outside my house, and this is my backyard full of kid toys, and we are going to learn a whole bunch of STEMmy words and things today, okay? And then we're going to do something pretty fun. I think you should have most of this stuff at your house somewhere. I would recommend doing this project either outside or in the garage or something where you don't really care if it gets messy. I do have a box just to keep mine contained. So over here, this is my really super fancy poster that I made. I hope you can see all that. Today we're going to talk about it's Sir Isaac Newton. And he came up with some very, very smart things. He was born in 1643 in Europe. He was motivated to study gravity when he saw an apple fall from a tree, and he thought, well, I wonder why that happened. And so then he began to study these things and try and figure out why in the world did this apple do what it did. Now remember, this was a long time ago, so no one knew what gravity was yet. No one knew how it worked, but Sir Isaac Newton was the guy that was figuring all that out. He was a physicist and a mathematician, and he also laid the foundation for calculus. If you know what calculus is, that's really hard math. So this guy was super duper smart, right? So we're gonna look at a couple of words real quick, and oh no, it's blowing away. And we're gonna look at 3 of Mr. Newton's laws of motion right here. He had 3 all together. You might get some shadow, but you can still read it. Number 1, the objects at rest tend to stay at rest, and objects in motion move at the same speed until force interferes with it. That's called inertia. We're gonna talk about a couple of these words, so don't get scared and confused. The next one, his second law, is the greater the force, the greater the speed, acceleration. So the heavier something is, the faster it goes when it swings. And then the third one is for every action, there is an equal and usually opposite reaction. So we're gonna see some of the stuff in the project that we do. We're also gonna look at a couple more words. The word gravity, that's the force that pulls objects toward the earth. So if you jump, you get pulled down back to the earth. Some of us jump shorter than others and higher than others. I do not jump very high. There's also something called force. Now force, it's a push or pull in a particular direction, causing motion. And then we have acceleration. Now if you get in the car with your parents and they hit the gas pedal, that's called the accelerator. That makes you go faster. And that is how much speed changes in the current amount of time. And then we have motion, and motion is a change in position, moving, motion. And then we have one more word, and that is what this thing is called right here. It is called a pendulum. And a pendulum is a fixed object hung from a point so it can swing back and forth due to the force of gravity. So the reason that gravity is important for this is because that's what's pulling it back and forth and down toward the earth, okay? So all of these words, you can rewind the video and see those again if you would like to, but these are our big STEMmy words today, okay? Now, what I've done here is I've got 2 chairs and I've got a broom. And so I have 2 chairs that actually already had paint on them. Don't use your mom's dining room chairs, probably not the best idea. But something that you can hold a handle of a broom or a rake or something, okay? And I have a broom because I don't want to get stuck by pointy things on the end. The next thing I've got is I have a cup, and I poked holes in the sides, and I actually poked a hole in the bottom. So there's a hole right here, one right here, and one right here. And then I put my yarn that I used before. If you have string, that's great. Through the sides, and before I tied it all together, I made sure it was at a height that I liked too. So I put my paper in a box, and I decided to cover the bottom of my box, because what we're going to do is we're going to put paint in this pendulum. Now these paints that I have, I watered them down, so it's about 2 parts paint, 1 part water, so more paint than water. I think one of them I might have too much water. We'll see what happens. But we're going to do some pendulum painting, okay? So I'm gonna take my paint and I'm gonna pour it in this cup, but the first, well, after I pour the paint in there, then I'm gonna take the tape off the bottom. Not first, because if I do, then it's gonna go everywhere. So I'm gonna pour my paint in here. I've got this really cool bright color that I like. And as you can see, I poured really, really easy. So I'm going to, this is where it gets a little messy, but that's okay. I'm gonna try and get my tape to come off. Come off, tape, there we go. And I'm going to swing it. Now, if you notice, it's kind of making a kind of like a oval pattern going on there. And you can, if you have a bigger box or you just want to do it without a box, you can swing it and make different patterns, all kinds of stuff. And I kind of like the way this one's going, actually. So I want another color, and I'm going to pour mine back in, and I'm going to put another color in there because I can. So my next one, I have a really cool green color. And this one is the one I watered a little bit more. And as you can see, it's kind of making this cool splatter art effect. And this one's actually a little bit stripey. And I'm going to see if I can get it going the other way. And the force is pushing my cup down, and motion is making it move back and forth. And gravity is pulling it toward the ground. So if I swung it out, it's going to swing back in because of gravity. I'm going to try another color. I think this time I'm going to do some blue. Now you might need to get a cup or something to mix these colors in first. And I've got my blue swinging around. See, that's why you put paper, because then you get this really cool like art effect. It's kind of like STEM and art mixed together. A little bit of steam in there for you. And I've got one more color, and I think I'm gonna do some purple. Now you can do whatever colors that you want to do, but these are just ones I happen to have on hand. And see, some of my colors, I got them a little too watery, but it's still doing a really cool thing with it. So this is just a super fun project. You could make all kinds of paintings with these. You could do all kinds of art with these. So it's up to you however you want this to all come together. You can also make some homemade puff paint and do it, sidewalk chalk, and do it out on the sidewalk as well. If you look up a recipe for that, I think it uses cornstarch, washable paint, and some water. So that should come right off of your sidewalk, but don't quote me on that, look it up. All right, you guys, I hope you have fun. I want to see what you do. Love y'all. Bye.